Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. I'm Gooner Gimli and tonight I'm going to be joined by, first up, he's the intro I nearly always get wrong. So if I finish this sentence without one fuck up, we're on to a winner already. It's Danny the GPF. Fuck it.
You tit.
That was actually scripted, I will say.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. Of course I know you're the German flower pot.
Well, I'm not. Technically, my cars are.
And would you like to explain to everybody why?
No, because we want to get this over and done with. Fuck them. Let's get on with it.
Fair enough. Fuck you. Next up, joining us all the way from sunny Spain, it's our grumpy Venezuelan John. Hello, John.
Hello, lads. How are you doing this evening?
Very good.
Well, I didn't have faggots for dinner, but that's a long-running joke.
Yeah.
Next on tonight's bill, it's our man from Poland. It's Steve, Mr. Lord Hillwood. Hello, Steve.
Hello there, chaps. How you doing? It's nice and warm over here. Still 21 degrees. I'm loving it.
See, he does this to us every week. He comes on telling us how nice the weather is, and you know, over here it's pissed down most of the day. It's great.
Yeah, well,
It's
I've got to get it in while I can, because in about 6 weeks' time it's going to be -30, and you'll just hear me crying on the end of the other end of the call.
And then we'll be glad for the torrential rain, I suppose. I guess, you know, swings and roundabouts and all that. Right.
Indeed.
And finally, filling in for Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV, who sadly couldn't be with us this evening, it's our long-time friend of the show, Mr. Raj Patel. Hello, Raj.
Hi there, everyone. How's everyone?
I think we're good this week, aren't we?
I've got my guitar ready for you Gimmers tonight.
Oh, yeah, you're going to play us out, am I right?
I got a song called Gimli's Underpants, ready and waiting.
Oh, lovely.
I'm only joking. I need to...
Oh, you have me going.
Boo.
Right, on tonight's show, it's a bit of a first for this podcast because we have a fan phone in. We've got loads of people on the line ready to ask the panel their questions. We figured out with no football talk this week to speak of other than international duty, and the fact that Ozil signed last week and we already did it in last week's podcast, we're going to do something a little bit different. But before we crack on with that, we're going to go over to Danny with all the injuries, goals and whatnot from Arsenal players who are currently on international duty. Danny.
Right, this might go on a bit because it's the first time we've done it. So if people get bored, just fast forward for about 3 minutes. Right, here we go. Szczesny and Fabianski were both on the bench for Poland, and neither of them played in the 1-1 draw with Montenegro or the 5-1 win against San Marino. They had the Southampton goalie, Burke. He used to be at Celtic. He's the goalie.
Borut.
That's him. Yeah. Because he had been, because he went to Celtic and then he left Celtic and went to play in Italy, and then that's when Szczesny became number one, and now he's back playing in the Premier League. He's no longer number one, I don't think. It was a bit of a shame. Poland are fourth in their group. They've got 2 games left, which are against England and the Ukraine, so it's almost definitely Poland won't be going to sunny Brazil in 2014. Viviano, give him a mention, although he's for 4th choice. He didn't go with the Italian squad because they've got Buffon as number 1. I think Sirigu of PSG is number 2. And then Marchetti of Lazio is number 3. But Italy have won Group B because they beat the Czech Republic.
Basically, it's Buffon number 1 and other cunts 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. But he's 105. Right. So where was I? Because you dropped a C-bomb straight away. Sagna, Koscielny and Giroud all started both of France's games. They 0-0 away at Georgia and they won 4-2 away at Belarus. And Koscielny got the assist for the 4th goal, which was nice to see. France are second beyond Spain in the group, so both are guaranteed a playoff place. So it's between the two of them of who's going to go through and who's going to get the playoff game. Flamini, although he's been playing for AC Milan for all these years and now he's back with us and had a great game, he's not played for France since 2008, and he's only had 3 caps for France, which I thought was quite surprising. A bit of news on Abu Dhabi. He was at home playing sensible soccer on his Commodore Amiga, and he hurt his wrist and is out for another 7 years. So that's very sad news. Mertesacker,
apart from for his bank manager, he's going to get another £30 million sick pay.
Yeah, hopefully something like that. Right, Mertesacker and Ozil both started for Germany in a 3-0 home win against Austria, and they both started in a 3-0 away win at Faroe Islands, which at half-time, from memory, I think it was 0-0, which I thought, how the hell can Germany be 0-0 against the Faroe Islands at half-time? But they were. And Mertesacker scored the first goal in the Faroe Islands game, and Ozil got the second goal from a penalty. And Germany are now top of their group. They need 1 more point to qualify, or the last group game is against Sweden, and they need to draw against Sweden, and they're through. Cazorla come on as the sub for Spain. in the 2-0 away win in Finland, and Nacho was an unused sub. And then the second game was a 2-2 home draw with Chile, and Santi and Nacho both started the game, which was nice to see. This is the bit of the bad news. Rosicky started and scored in the Czech Republic's first game, which was a 2-1 home defeat to Armenia. I mean, if you're losing to Armenia, it's time to bloody... Even Wales would beat those. And then he also started in... in the Czech Republic's 2-1 loss away to Italy, where he went off in the 38th minute with a hip thigh injury. And on the physioroom.com, it says no return date as yet. But as the Czech Republic are now fourth in the group, they can still make the playoffs if they win their last two games. But it looks like the Czech Republic won't make the World Cup, and I can see him retiring from international football.
So in a nutshell, they're fucked then.
They are fucked. You wait till fucked. Here comes fucked. I'm lining another big fucked up.
That was under a De Rossi challenge too, wasn't it?
I didn't see it, no, but did it look bad?
Yeah, well, De Rossi just basically fucks everybody in his way, so yeah.
He's the modern day Gattuso, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Right, ready?
Can he headbutt Joe Jordan as well?
Oh, that was in where was that? Was
That was against Tottenham.
That was it.
That was the game where Flamini ruined Bale and Carlucca.
Carlucca, yeah.
And then Gattuso headbutted Joe Jordan on the touchline.
Oh, well, you can't argue that. That's quality stuff.
Lovely stuff. YouTube it for anyone that's interested. Yeah, it's like, you know, M&M's dropping from the sky. It's a beautiful thing.
And then they interviewed Ari after the match, and they were saying that Joe was ready to go on Gattuso, and I was just like, wow, really? Okay.
Talking about Gattuso, my Italian team is Palermo, who got relegated from Serie A this season. That's who we got Viviano, and Gattuso is the manager of Palermo, which is brilliant because he was a fantastic player. I loved him when he was at Rangers, and then when he was playing for Milan, he was fucking vicious. If you're Welsh, turn away now. Ramsey started and scored a 39th minute for Wales in a 2-1 away loss at Macedonia, and then Wales lost 3-1 at home to Serbia. Wales are bottom of their group, can't qualify the World Cup, and just give up playing football because they're dog shit.
Well, at least it will save Ryan Giggs a whole month of excuses of why he can't play for Wales.
Isn't he retired from them yet? I mean, technically, he retired 20 years ago.
He's probably doing all their wives on the quiet.
And get Gareth Bale disappearing up his own arse since he became the world's most expensive footballer. Jesus. Fuck off, you play for Wales. Yeah. Jesus.
How can you earn £300,000 a week and turn up in a car park to meet Ronaldo's looking like you just walked out of a Gucci showroom, looking like you've just stolen a hoodie out of Primark with your little shoplifting under your arm? What an absolute cunty look.
I thought they were making a follow-up to Bruno because those two were looking a little bit mincing up and down the car park looking at
it was very man-lovish, wasn't it?
Pirelli under one arm, bag of bananas under the other.
Right, then on to Theo and Jack. Both started both games for England. The 4-0 home win to Moldova. We say Moldova, but my mate in Croatia says it's Moldova. And the nil... Is it?
Moldova.
Oh, anyway. The 0-0 draw against Ukraine, which was one of the most boring games of my entire fucking life. What a load of shit. Anyway, Theo come off on the 87th minute and had a reported injured ankle or foot. And but he says taken out. Yeah, he says he should be back for the weekend. And Jack came off as well near the end. Come off in the 68th minute, but he's not injured. He was. I heard somewhere that when he come off for our game against Spurs, Wilshere, and when Flamini come on, so I heard that he'd shit himself. That's not right, is it? Wilshere?
He had an upset stomach and he had to go off to go to the toilet.
Oh, because I had visions of Gary Lineker. You know, at the time where he actually shit himself during that game and he had to drag his arse along the floor. Do you remember that?
Yeah, when it was like a dog dragging his arse along the carpet as if it got worms.
I thought it was that. On to some injury things. Sanogo played for France's under-21s. They played two games. He played the first one, 5-0 win against Kazakhstan, and he reported he got 3 assists. Someone else said he got 2, but he went off injured in the 67th minute.
With a bad back.
Yeah, with a bad back, but apparently he's back for the weekend.
He's the new Diaby, isn't he?
Yeah, but it looks like he'll be back for the weekend. Bentner was not in the Danish squad because he's now our main striker. As they won 2-1 away in Malta and they won 1-0 at home against Armenia. But Denmark can't qualify for the World Cup now. They're fucked. And a little bit of South American news. Joel, I don't know. Joel, played for Costa Rica and scored as they spanked the USA 3-1. And then he played in the 1-1 draw away to Jamaica. And the Costa Rica have now qualified for the World Cup along with the USA There's
But Joel
3 go
Campbell's
through.
never coming back. Joel Campbell is gone to, is it
Olymp-
Olympiacos?
Yeah.
He ain't coming back from there. They'll buy him from there. He won't ever play a game for Arsenal.
He's got a half-decent record for Costa.
He's it's a shame because he could be a really good right winger.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
think he's played about 27 games from memory, and he's got about 10 or 11 goals. Anyway, that's my roundup. If it went on a bit long, sorry.
No, that was good. I'm sure that everybody that listened to it is now thoroughly filled in with
or dead.
all of.
I'm a bit worried. Raj has gone very quiet. He hasn't topped himself whilst listening to that, has he?
My eyes did glaze over for a bit there for a second or so, but
and no Venezuelan national team news, you cunt.
I was actually going to say, do you want to, are you interested in any Venezuelan news? And I thought you probably don't give a shit about that, so I left it.
I'll tell you what,
we're just twats down there in South America. We're horrible.
Well, there you go. There's not much more you can say to that. I mean, if you're interested, they beat Peru 3-2.
And we lost to Chile
3-0.
3-0, yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
and then in the goal scorers, because I'm going to prove that we do actually care. The goal scorers were Rondon, Gonzalez, and Otero, who is personally my favourite Venezuelan player of all time.
Bless you.
I
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so we'll go straight into the fan phoning then. I'm waiting on the line. We have 8 callers, and we'll try and get through all of them. Here we go. Hello, where'd you come from, and what is your question?
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm from London, and my question is, what's your take on the central defensive role at Arsenal? Do you feel we should have strengthened in the summer, and if so, who with?
So, who wants to field that one first of all?
Yeah, I'll take that. Obviously, we should have strengthened. We have 2 healthy center backs right now. Vermaelen obviously on his way back, but seeing the way Arsenal was looking at the situation with Flamini coming in, Sonia being able to cover that role, Flamini being able to cover the fullback roles, you can see that he didn't want to take a chance on a possible signing that he didn't know how they would fit into the squad. When you already know, Flamini knows the system, Sonia knows the system. So should we have strengthened? Obviously, of course. A top-notch player at that position would only strengthen us. Could we have gotten them at a reasonable price with the experience balancing out the price tag? I don't know. Obviously, I don't think that we could have gotten them because I think common sense would have dictated that we should have.
Okay, fantastic.
All right, thanks very much, lads.
Oh, cheers,
All right,
Matt, for doing it, Matt. Very kind.
Thanks a lot for coming in.
All right, thank you. See ya.
See it, bye.
Bye.
We'll go straight over to our next caller then. And I understand we have Joe on the line. Joe, where are you from and what's your question?
How you doing, guys? I'm from Dublin, and my question is, do you think Wenger not buying a striker is blind faith in the current squad, not wanting to disrupt the cohesion, or do you genuinely believe that there are no strikers out there of Arsenal calibre that he could have bought even after the Suarez debacle?
And Steve, we'll go over to you.
Yes, you should have bought a striker. I think the whole point is that obviously the Suarez issue was the agent was either misinformed or thought he could force a move, blackmailing Liverpool with Arsenal fronting them up with £40 million. It didn't work. The problem is when you look around in the window, the real class strikers were going for £60-65 million, and their wages over the 5-year deal were coming to £50 million as well. That's £110 million for one player. If you really look around outside Cavani and Falcao, there wasn't really anybody else. Anybody was prepared to sell to Arsenal. That's why you went for the Demba Ba deal. That deal collapsed because Mourinho cancelled it out. Perhaps you should have taken a punt at somebody at 15 or 20 million quid of the nature of, an English player is proved in the Premiership. But then if you've got a problem with that player, can they play in Europe? So unfortunately, the situation we've got is not satisfactory. But I really do think, for once, I think Wenger's excuse that there really wasn't anybody that could be sold to us that he wanted available is actually probably correct.
Do you not think like a sort like David Villa went to Atletico Madrid for €5 million? Do you not think we could have gone in for him? I know there's speculation in January that we're in from I think he would have done a good job for us. You know what I mean? For €5 million, it's an absolute bargain.
Yeah, the problem with Villa was that he didn't want to move from the Spanish league, and on top of that, I think they had an inside deal with them going for Oliver next year as well, Barca.
Oh, okay.
And Raj, do you want to have a go at this one as well?
It just makes me wonder whether there's a dearth of players generally this summer. I mean, we had a go at Higuain. I think we cocked that one up. I know people said that they changed the goalposts and stuff, but we had the money. We could have spent a bit more on him and made that deal possible. The Suarez one, I still think we embarrassed ourselves by doing that £40 million £1 offer, and I think Liverpool are never going to sell to us after that. But there is, I don't know, there's a feeling with me that there aren't that many players out there really, and if you are going to go out and get a big striker, then you're going to have to spend 55-60 million pounds. But Rooney was one that I was hoping we'd try and get, because I think he's quality and I think could have done very well for us.
I'd rather spend the money in other parts of the team, because we've got Giroud as number one, although I'd like to see Podolski as number one. So if Giroud can't play, then we've got Podolski who can play up front. If he can't play, Theo can play up front, although he'll get broken. And if he can't play, they get the postman up front. So I think there are places we can cover, but other players we can bring in and to play in those positions. So I think it was a defensive midfielder that we needed the most of. So we kind of got one who I, at the time, didn't think was going to be as good as he is. But if Flamini carries on the rest of the season the way he was in that game, I think that is 20 million quid saved.
Raj?
No, I kind of disagree on that. I think we need to go out and buy a proven goal scorer. I think Giroud's doing really well at the moment. Is he going to last 3 or 4 months? I don't know. Theo's definitely got to step up. He hasn't done much so far, to be quite honest. Podolski's a great player, but we need to go out and just spend the money on a proven goal scorer. It's so important for us.
I think Ozil's signing is very underestimated in the sense that he played with the world's second fastest player in Ronaldo. And I think having that type of pinpoint passing with Theo's pace, I think that brings Theo up a notch in what he's going to be able to do from here on forward. Because he was always looking for that person that could put something on his foot at full pace. Now it's up to him. He has no more excuses. He either delivers or he doesn't.
We're all speculating at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen over the next month or so. Ask that same question in a month's time. We'll have more of an idea. I mean, he might be right that with Ozil providing the pinpoint passes and stuff, we might be okay with others scoring goals and stuff. But it's hard to predict until we've had a few games under our belt with this guy in the team. So let's see. Let's cross our fingers.
Okay, Joe, I really hope that answers your question, and thank you so much for calling in.
That's brilliant, guys. Thanks very much.
And we'll move on to our next caller. Bryce, what's your question and where are you from?
I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, USA. My question is regarding this weekend's lineup. Do you guys think that Ozil will get the starting role right away, or do you think we'll keep Flamini in and put Wilshere at the number 10 role?
And Raj, that sounds like one for you to answer.
He's got to go straight in. £42 million we spent on him. We want to see him straight away. That's me as an Arsenal fan speaking. There's a lot of fans going up there on Saturday. Don't ease him in. I think he's quality, and I wanted to just show us what he's like from the first minute.
Would you agree with that, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a guy who's played in the Bundesliga, he's played in La Liga, he's a top international player, one of the top 10 players in the world. And we need him on the pitch. We need him to show what he can do, and we need him to start spraying the ball about. And the other thing is, it means that Jack Wilshere can get a rest, and he can spend some time getting himself back to proper fitness, because he's obviously clearly not fit. And if you've got Ozil there and Ramsey and Flamini around him in midfield, there's no need for Jack to even be on the pitch, to be honest. Let Ozil do his magic.
And finally, John.
Well, if you look at last year, we obviously had problems with those type of teams that sat 9 people behind the ball. I think that you bring in Ozil, show what he can do right off the bat, get some energy going for the next 7 matches that we have, that we should be in it to win it for every single one of them, to build up some sort of run before the Christmas break.
And Raj, we'll go finally to you just to finish off this question, and then we'll move on to
just want to say that Steve's actually spot on. Leave Jack out of it on Saturday. He's 80-90% at best at the moment. Let him recover. We've got players that can take his place. Get Ozil in straight away.
So, Bryce, does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
What would you do, Bryce?
I'm a bit skeptical considering he's only been with the team for like one full day of training. But of course, he's the caliber of player that should be able to jump in right away. So I don't see
Absolutely.
any issues with it, and it's pretty clear that Jack's still not back to his form yet, but he'll get there.
No, I agree. You see the amount of assists that this boy is getting in Europe and at international level, and you think that surely a player of his caliber should be chucked straight in and should be able to do it from the get-go. So, right, thank you very much for calling in and taking your time to answer the question. Cheers, Bryce, and we'll move on to our next caller, and we'll go to Finn. Finn, where are you from and what's your question, mate?
I'm from Surrey, and I was just wondering, what do you think the club needs to do to improve the atmosphere at the Emirates? Because I know it was great against Spurs, but how can it be like that every week?
There's a simple answer to that. Burn the Emirates down and all move back to Highbury.
Oh, Danny.
That's what I'd do. I'd fucking nuke the place. I fucking hate the stadium that much. I don't give a fuck about the money. My heart, my home is Highbury, and I did one season at Cashburton. Obviously, it was the first season that we were there, and I didn't enjoy it. And I did 3 games the second season we were there, and I didn't enjoy any of those. I didn't feel as welcome. I didn't feel at home. I know it's changed a lot since I last went in 2008, but yeah, I'd nuke it and all move back to Highbury.
And John?
Honestly, if you can get the atmosphere like it is in away days, that's always a plus. But you hear so many stories about, tourists and people that want you to be quiet, things like that. And then a couple of weeks ago, we had the situation with Red Action and the flags that they were trying to get in, and they even had, some club resistance on that. I don't know. The bigger you get, the harder it is to facilitate, a closed ground experience, isn't it?
No, definitely. And Raj, I know that this is a topic that's fairly close to your heart as well, isn't it? And I know you do the work with the BSM, and that's one of the things that you guys are all about, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a few aims. One of them is to recreate the clock end. Allow like-minded people to be able to sit together, recreate those hybrid days if we can. It's not an impossible task. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do to improve the atmosphere. And Red Action get knocked a lot by fans, but they work very hard to try and get flags in and banners in. But their latest flag venture was blocked by the club. There's this health and safety paranoia, which kind of reverberates around the stadium management team, and they try very hard not to allow these things to happen. But for a more controversial view, I think the simple thing is that fans should take more responsibility for creating atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere at the game the other week against Tottenham was absolutely amazing, and that was down to us, wasn't it? So don't look at other people, look at us. Let's create that atmosphere ourselves. Why not make that stadium a rocking venue for 20 odd games a season?
Didn't United actually hire someone to do the atmosphere at their ground, John?
They did an acoustics expert to figure out where to place the fans that were most vocal during the matches so that it sounded better on the pitch. So, I mean, there's things like that we could do. Is that artificial atmosphere, though, is what we have to get into. Do you want it to be, artificial, or do you want it to be genuine?
Very true. And to finish this one off, Steve?
Well, I think one of the first things is they need to investigate actually how many of these guys that travel away actually go to the Emirates, because I would say about probably half of them probably don't. Firstly, because they can't afford it, and secondly, because they don't like the way it is in there. And I think they need to look at recreating the clock end. They need to look also at incentivising those and rewarding those loyal away fans who go week in, week out, travelling hundreds of miles to support the team. Incentivise those guys to get them in and put them in blocks where they're going to generate the most noise. But also, I think as well, they've got to ask fans to stop standing up with iPads, filming. They've got to point out to people, this is a football match. It's not the matinee at Cats. You don't sit there reading your book with your blooming barber coat on, because you're bored and you'd rather be buying organic cheese down, Chapel Street Market. It's football. You go to football to create an atmosphere, and as Raj said, that's down to the fans, and we've got to make more of what we got.
No, Definitely. So I hope that's answered your question, Finn. Thank you very much for calling in and taking part.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
Cheers, Finn.
Cheers.
And we'll move on to our next caller. Hello, where'd you come from and what's your question? I understand you're called Peter.
That's right. My name's Pete. I'm calling from Hemel Hempstead. My question is, what kind of team should we put out in the Capital One Cup for next week? And should we put a strong team out or rest our key players?
And John.
I think that you have to kind of measure where our injuries are at that point. I think, putting out a strong team. Are we after the league? Are we after a cup? Are we after any kind of silverware just to make people happy? To be honest, I think that we should rest our players, keep the same kind of lineups going that we've been doing the last couple of years, and try to make a run in the Champions League or in the league.
Okay. Anybody else want to field that one as well?
Yeah, I'll have a go on that. I think there's some players that definitely need to get some games. Jenkinson's got to play at right back because with Sagna back to looking like he's on form again, I don't think Jenkinson's going to get much of a look in at right back unless Sagna has to play at centre back, because we've only got 2 fit centre backs, haven't we? We've got Koscielny and Mertesacker, and I don't really want to see both of those two playing in the League Cup, so I'd play with no centre backs. Jenks at right back, Rayo at right wing, Nacho left back, and I'd have Flamini, Frimpong, play them in the middle. I'd have Zelalem.
No.
Yeah, better late than never.
No.
But Zelalem is out for 2 months.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Play him at centre back then. Of course he is. Yeah, he tweeted yesterday, didn't he? He's out for 3 months. Poor bloke. Yeah. He can still play. It's better than having no one at centre back. Viviano in goal, just to see what he's going to do. I think our centre back problems are going to be, our centre back pairing is going to be a problem because we can only play. We've only got 3 people that can play at centre back, and I think Mertesacker, after playing 2 games for Germany, is going to be a little bit tired. Koscielny's played 2 games for France recently because the League Cup game's coming up quite soon, isn't it?
Next week.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So they're not going to be want to play in 6-7 games in a month. So maybe we could get some Galasses on a free transfer, get him in, set him at the back. Then up front, it's going to have to be Bentner. He's going to have to get up there because it's the only games he's going to get and earn some pay off some of the wages he's been paid.
And
I'd
lose
like to
some
see
bloody weight.
yeah. Well, he has. He's cut his number in half. And then I think I'd like to see Gnabry up front as well. Give him a go because he's done really well for the under-21s in recent years. And this season, I think he's our top goal scorer. And I'd like to see Eisfeld playing the game in midfield. So I'd mix a few of the first-team players that aren't playing much, and the rest I'd fill with reserves and youths.
Okay.
Well, you're always going to see Gnabry off on the left wing. Akbom really is going to be the striker for us, no? From the lower, for the reserves and the other 21s.
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to know where they're going to play because they've got so few people. I still don't understand why Miguel was let go on loan to Leicester when we've got no centre backs. I mean, what's the point in that?
You really want Miguel at centre back?
It was better than playing Zemalem with one leg.
True.
Before this gets silly, we'll move on to Raj as well because I know you want to answer this one.
Well, on a purely malicious note, I'd like to see Bentner play next week just to piss GC off. No, I don't expect a strong team out against West Brom. Hopefully, we won't get any big teams in the first few rounds anyway. If we do, then we're bollocks because we've got a thin squad and we need to rest our players. We've got a lot of fixtures coming up, so I would expect relatively weak teams going out at the moment, or just reserves and stuff like that. And
Steve, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think Raj has got it right. We've got a lot of big Champions League games coming up, and we've got a concentrated program of league games. We can't afford, some small team having their cup final against Arsenal, taking out, Giroud or Koscielny or, God forbid, Ozil. We just can't afford that to happen, and we've got to try and make it through these first rounds and get to January transfer window as injury-free as possible and replenish.
Yeah.
Definitely. Right, thank you very much for your question, Peter, and we'll move straight on then. I understand we actually have a Bristolian on the line, so he's already told you where he's come from, but his name's Jack, and what's your question, Jack?
Well, hello everyone. My question is, where do you think Santi Cazzola's going to play now? Because I can't see Ozil anywhere else apart from straight down the middle of the park, and Cazzola isn't really as strong on the left, so where is his place in the squad?
And Danny, you curly whirly loving lover. Over to you.
I think I would personally play him as rush goalkeeper because he's got to get going. I don't know. It's going to be hard because everyone has said that the Ox, his dad has said that his best position is behind the front two, or behind the striker, in the hole behind the striker. So that's the Ox's best position because he's right-footed, isn't he? But he's playing on the left wing. So then you've got Santi, who has been playing on the left wing, who's both-footed, who I think his best position is in the Bergkamp hole, much like the Ox is going to be. And now you've got Ozil, who can only play in that position. So we've now got three players who all can play in the same position. So it's going to have to be Ozil's going to play there, and then I think Santi's going to have to stay left wing, and I think the Ox is going to have to share the right wing position with Theo.
And Ben, if you want to finish this one off.
Well, if you look at Cazorla's career, before his leg injury, I think it was in 2009, back in Villarreal, he played left wing. He only started playing in the middle and even as a defensive midfielder when he got to Malaga. So I think it's a little short-sighted to say that he can't play left wing. I think he needs to get readjusted to that position, which was his position all the way up through when he was at Real Madrid, when he was at Villarreal. I believe he can play there. I think he needs to get reaccustomed to that position. And with Ozil being as creative as he is and having somebody like Santi on the left, I think that we're going to get the best out of both of them once they start partnering up.
Right, thank you very much. Did that answer your question, Jack?
Yeah, I think so.
Who would you like? Where would you like to see him play them?
Well, thing is, he hasn't really got the speed, you know. I mean, once Podolski comes back, where do you play him? Because he can't play up front that well, and his only position's on the left wing. So then you've got Podolski sitting on the bench, and Cazorla, Ozil, and then, you know, Walcott on the right. And then the Ox is missing out, Podolski's missing out, and then how do you rotate it?
But that's a good problem to have. That's the problem that everybody has been screaming for at Arsenal, which is we have depth at every position, and we have versatile players that can play virtually anywhere.
Can Podolski's big? Is he any good at centre back? He's a big old lump.
Oh, Daddy, you're still living off the last question.
I know that's what I mean. We need a bloody centre back, don't we? That's what we do. And just him and Mertesacker together at the back. No one's gonna fucking want to go near them. They'll kill people. It'd be amazing.
No, definitely.
The Hun. No one's gonna fuck with the Hun pairing.
Right, thank you so much for calling in and giving us your question, Jack. Just before you go, can we get a brief curly whirly from you?
Oh, a very brief curly whirly.
Yeah.
Curly whirly.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. All the best.
Cheers, Jack.
Cheers, Jack.
Bye.
So, on the line, joining us now is JP. Where are you from and what's your question, JP?
I'm from the USA, and my question has to do with being from the USA. And do you guys think that an American will ever crack the top squad?
I'm not too sure what's going to happen too soon in the future. I think at the moment there's a relatively shallow pool of talent in the States. If you kind of did your top 10 list of American players, two of them would probably keepers, Friedel and Howard. So I'm not too sure about that. I mean, Clint Dempsey's probably the best American player you've got at the moment. I'm sure everyone else will disagree. You've got Cameron playing in Stoke.
Brett Shea as well, isn't it?
Yeah, there are players in Europe. You've got Cherundolo, who's the Hanover captain, and then you've got Liverpool signed that 18-year-old Pelosi in 2011, but he broke his leg this year. But he's supposed to have excellent talent. But in the next couple of years, no, I don't think we'll get any American players whatsoever, unless Kroenke has a hand in it and there's some sort of PR or market value.
And Steve, over to you.
Well, it's inconceivable that a nation that size, especially with the rate that the Hispanic population out there is growing and their love of football, that, you know, in the next, say, 15 years, they won't produce a team that's better than England. And, you know, at the moment, I mean, let's be fair, even Stoke on a wet Saturday night are better than England were against Ukraine. So, yeah, I can't see it happening in the next 15 years, but certainly when all the development work they're doing and all the investment they're putting in and, you know, the love of the Hispanic population of America of football, that's going to, for sure, that'll ensure that they do, you know, get up there, in my opinion.
Okay, and John, is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the player that we could have done with this year would have been like an Altidore, a striker, obviously. I don't foresee the U.S. having a strong influence on an Arsenal squad for some time to come. I disagree with the assertion that it has to be a Spanish-backed possibility in the U.S. If you look at it, it's all about money. Why are you going to play football when you can go play American football for 17, 18 million a year? Why are you gonna play? You can play baseball for 20 million a year. There's more options available until European football comes up to the standard that they can pay the athletes from the U.S. the same amount of money that other organizations can pay them. You'll never see an influx of talent that will make a significant difference into the European game, in my opinion.
I'm just looking at the USA squad and recent call-ups. There's a bloke called Cody Cropper, a goalkeeper at Southampton. He's in the UK. He's 20 and he hasn't played a game yet. So that's the kind of thing. I think the only way you're going to get anyone to get to play for them is if someone comes over and plays here for long enough. Remember, like Almunia was, although he being Spanish, he was here long enough to be able to play for England, like Arteta. He's never played for Spain, has he? So that's another one who can do citizenship, and then they can play for another country. But I don't think there's I think the closest we've been to this was a North American playing for England would have been Owen Hargreaves, I'm sure he was born in Canada.
Yeah. What about Freddie Adu, the man-child?
He's just had his 15th birthday, so he's probably still okay.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, that boy's been around for about 35 years, hasn't he?
Well, I saw him at Carnu's 21st birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
So that could be no problem. But yeah, I don't think there is loads of Americans living over here. But
Bradley's another player that's pretty decent. You talk about Breck Shea earlier, but I mean, to be honest, until there can be a significant step towards paying the kind of fees, on a yearly wage that the NBA, the NFL, and the Major League Baseball and all the other opportunities that are given to an American athlete, until that bridge is gapped, there won't be a significant change in the European football game for me, as far as talent coming over from the U.S.
Because when I tell people that Beckham, because I'm an MLS fan, Portland Timbers, go on boys. When I tell people that Beckham would be on £6, £7, £8 million a year, and that he'll have teammates that are on £30,000, £40,000, £50,000 a year for playing as many games, if not more, than he does, people find that hard to believe. And also, when a player gets is bought or sold into the MLS, it's the MLS that buy them. It isn't the individual clubs, and the clubs are assigned players. It's like when Howard left MLS.
Well, it's a draft. It's a draft,
yeah,
just like it is in yeah.
Yeah, but they were really pissed off because when he left the MLS to come play for Man United, they were given, I think, about a 35-year-old goalkeeper. They said, well, we've just lost one of the best young goalkeeping talents to come out of America in a long time, and now you've given us some bloke who's in his late 30s. So there's just so many problems with. I like the league and I watch the games, but there's just so many things they need to do, including a calendar change to make the game more progressive.
Okay, does that answer your question, JP?
Yeah, that hits the nail on the head.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for calling and taking your time out to grace us on the podcast.
All right, thanks for having me.
Cheers, JP.
Cheers.
JP.
Cheers.
Right, and we have Alonzo on the line next. Alonzo, where are you from and what is your question?
I'm from the Woodlands, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, Texas. My question is about Nicholas Bentner. Where do you guys see him fitting in the club, and how soon can we see him on the pitch?
And Raj, to you?
As soon as possible. Yeah, I mean, we will see him on the pitch very soon. GC will be very pissed off when that happens. But we haven't got the depth in the squad, so he will feature at some point, probably a Carling Cup game or whatever you call it, Capital One Cup game. I don't rate him whatsoever. I would hope he never plays for the club, but it does look like he's going to. He hasn't played for us since 2011. Don't think he's played many games since then anyway. So, no, I'm not really a big fan of his, but he will play.
No, he went to Sunderland and he slagged us off.
Yeah.
And then he came back for a little bit, made it quite clear that he didn't actually want to play for the club. And then they hocked him out to Juventus, where he got injured after one game. And which, before he actually got injured, he said how nice it was being at a proper club and how he still didn't want to go back to Arsenal. And then, of course, inevitably he got injured. And here we are today with the loan ended and Nicholas Bentner back in the team. Steve, I mean, can you see him playing back in this team?
You can look at this in two ways. You can look at it from Nicholas Bentner's perception of what's left of his career, if he has one, and secondly, Arsenal's needs must. I mean, as Raj said, he's a horrible fucking waster of an arsehole. He's got a 1 in 100,000 chance to reach the top level of professional football, and he's wasted it. Yeah, he's earned a lot of money, but he's wasted it, and he's more or less to the last 5% of his career going out the window. So if he wants to continue as a professional football player and he wants to play for his country, then he's got to spend the next few weeks on a very intensive fitness regime. He's got to get fit. He's got to start. He's got to have the right attitude. He's got to stop acting the big I am. Keep at a nightclub. Stop drinking. Not go and smashing any cars up like he was doing at Sunderland. And he's got to knuckle down and realise that he's the bottom of the barrel in the team. And he's got to get on with it and show the coaches and Wenger he can actually do a job there, because he's got 6 months, well, not even that, he's got till January to prove to Wenger and also other clubs who are watching that he's actually worth investing money in, because otherwise he's going to become a free agent without anybody wanting to pay a fee for him.
I know there's something you wanted to add to that as well, wasn't there, Raj?
The one thing he's got to do is to learn humility. And he's just not going to do that. He's a goose-stepping, gum-chewing twat, as far as I'm concerned. And he will never make it at this club. He's had his chance. He's finished. But I'm afraid we're relying on him. And we may have to rely on him for a couple of games. But if he can learn to be humble, then that's a start. But I don't think that will happen. He's just too arrogant for that.
No. Van, over to you. And then finally to Danny.
Well, number one, shout out to Alonzo, who's in Texas, where I grew up.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, Bentner is a cunt. Let's be serious.
I
mean, after his stints on, playing with us, then going to Juventus, then coming back and denying, 20 moves during the summer. All he's looking after is a payday. But he's somebody that we can use for the next 6 months until January comes to do a job in a Carling Cup or a Capital One Cup, as they call it now. Just get us by. It's the devil that we have inside the club that we have to deal with for the moment. I think he can contribute. He's never been a bad player. He's just been a bad attitude player. So, if we can get a couple of goals out of him, get a couple of appearances out of him until we can make do until January, I think it's a job that we have to do. We have to live with.
I think it's an absolute shame. I mean, money has ruined football. I mean, long gone are the days when we could have just given him a carriage clock, picture of a Spitfire, and told him to piss off and just retired the horrible Danish cunt.
Oi,
Danny,
don't be fucking horrible about the poor bloke. I mean, you look back when he was 2021, he scored 15 goals one season for us. And the next season he scored 12. So that in 81 games, he scored 27 goals. So you're going to be a little bit big-headed about it. Everything that he's done is wrong. Much like Fabregas, everything he did when he wanted to go was wrong. But at that age, I mean, you're a similar age to these two, Gim, and you're a bit of a minge most of the time. No. So you'll probably look back at these podcasts and think, oh, what a potty-mouthed little trollop I really was back then. But I've got high hopes for Bentner. I mean, he's got, looking at his international record, he's got 22 and 55 for Denmark. He's probably the best forward they've got at the time. He scored a load of goals for us when he's 2021. Of course he's going to think he's good. I mean, he's got his own little Diamonique website where you can get silver and diamond jewellery, which is he probably does vajazzles for all the other lady gardens that he knows, because I refuse to use the C word. So I think he can do a job. He just needs to lose weight, get fit, and then show what he can do, and hopefully he'll have sense that in the League Cup games and the few games that he gets, that he can use this as a shop window to go out there, show other teams what he can do, and in the meantime score a few goals for us, and then we'll probably part ways in January.
His talent has never been an issue. It's always been his attitude.
No, true. He is an obnoxious cunt. Right, Alonzo, does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I mean, I never really hated Bentner either, and I think that he has chances to perform, so hopefully he could do well. I mean, there's no reason why he can't do well.
Yeah, it's true. I've got my fingers crossed. I hope he does do well.
Can I just say one thing in Nicholas Bentner's defence?
Good luck.
You haven't got Gav calling you a cunt this week like he did me last week.
Yeah, but I'm immune to it. I've heard all these bollocks for 15 years in the pub from under his bloody baseball cap with a ponytail swinging in the face. It doesn't have any effect. The only thing Bentner's in his defence is, okay, he made some wrong choices. He definitely can score goals. Maybe perhaps Arsenal wasn't the right team for him. We perhaps playing the style that maybe doesn't suit his way of playing. But, the guy did come on when we were 1-0 down against the Scum and scored a brilliant header from the corner that was taken as he came on. So,
and he also scored when we were here in Barcelona.
Yeah.
But he'll be forever remembered for the time that he played against Burnley, and he had three sitters of exactly
6 1-on-1s.
Yeah, and the guy, as a football player, you are remembered for your genius moments, but out of it, you're always remembered 9 times out of 10 for the things you fuck up.
But what about Sunderland 2 years ago?
What about Birmingham, where he was having it off with Steve Bruce's daughter and then dumped her publicly and ran off that Danish princess?
Oh, that man, he's just got so much class, hasn't he?
Well, we all make that mistake. I've done it twice this week, run off with a princess.
Yeah, with my missus.
Yeah.
Oi, cheeky monkey.
But she is a princess.
She's lovely, bless her.
Ah. Right, thank you for calling us, Alonso. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And
As always.
We'll hopefully catch up with you again soon. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
Cheers, Alonso. We'll speak to you again later.
All right, peace.
Bye.
Question here that's been sent in by an urgent tweeter, and he wants to know from the Bristol area, are the rumours true that Gimli was recently arrested for trying to persuade the local vicar that in the correct light the face of Jesus would appear in his scrotum?
I can actually confirm that is true.
I thought you'd had a super injunction on that, Gimli.
No.
Was your solicitor called James Raul Stokes by any chance?
No, it was called Jack Carey.
Was he?
Yeah,
that's an easy way to get those two mixed up. A couple of Bristons, a pair of them.
Like 2 peas in a pod, them. You'd only think 2 people have ever existed from Bristol, and they're all of time. Curly whirly. Right, so I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone that got in touch with us this week. Unfortunately, we couldn't have everybody ask us questions because, we had about 50 people really get in touch. So we just picked people at random. Hopefully we'll do this again soon. I mean, you guys won't appreciate, but this has taken us about 4.5 hours to get to this point so far. So hopefully there's no more editing in it. But before we go and we find ourselves again in the back straight of the podcast, I'd just like some predictions on the game against Sunderland. So first of all, we'll go to Danny. What's your prediction?
I think it's going to be 4-0. And I think every week I refuse to say Giroud to score the first goal. So it's so fucking obvious. I'm going to say Ramsey.
Ramsey. Okay.
Yes.
Steve?
I think it's going to be 4-0 to Arsenal, and I think the first score will be Walcott.
Fantastic. John?
I think it'll be 3-1 us, and I think Cazorla will score the first one.
Okay, and finally, Raj, as the guest on this week's podcast, you get to do it for everybody that's done it in the past. So your guest...
Always the bridesmaid on these podcasts. It's going to be 2-0, and I think Koscielny might score a goal on Saturday. He's ready for one, I think, so we'll see.
And I was going to say 2-0, but seeing as Raj has gone for it, I'm going to say 3-0, and I'm going to go for Ozil as the first scorer.
That's what we all want.
Or as Ozil, if you Mark Lawrenson. Next week, we'll be joined by the Chopsy one, Mr. Gav. We're also going to have Mr. Chocolate Voice with us as well, and also our grumpy Venezuelan who's with us tonight, John, will be back with us.
That depends, of course, whether FK reappears after his nefarious crumpet hunt in Liverpool.
He likes tans and boobs.
Yeah, well, as long as they don't happen their gobs up there, they'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. I've pointed him towards a few nightclubs, and we haven't heard from him since. So
He's probably under arrest by the deviant police if they're clubs you recommended.
yeah, probably. I hope you're well, FK. Who wants to do some shout-outs this week? And we'll start with Raj. Who would you like to shout out?
Just the one good friend of mine at the Goonerholic. I don't know whether he actually allows me to say his name out in public, but follow him. He's fun. He's got a great blog as well, and a true Arsenal fan.
Okay, and I'd like to go to John next.
This guy is, somebody that I've followed for almost 3 years. At AIR Vic Concray. And I think everybody can figure that one out.
Fantastic. And Steve?
I'm not going to give any shout-outs to anybody specific this week. I'm just going to say hello to all Polish Gooners and ask more of them to start tweeting in English as well as Polish, because that way they'll get more Arsenal followers from all over the world, and they'll be able to spread the love from Poland that we have for Arsenal.
Okay, and finally Danny, because you've probably got about 10.
I've only got 3. I've got Emily Addison, Brycey, and Phoenix Marie. 3 of my favourite porn stars. I've just followed all 3 of them.
Oh, fantastic. And I'd like to say, I'd like to shout out the Gooner Girls podcast, who had that scruffy ginger cunt Adrian Durham on last week. So a big hello to them. Big fuck off to Adrian Durham, you scruffy ginger cunt. And so that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast, you scruffy ginger cunt. Thank you very much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Good night.
Nanu, cheeky monkey, porn star bitches.
If you...
He's having a moment. He's saying a little prayer.
Oh, dear. You got to leave that in. You got to leave that in because it was a Just, can I have that snippet for me? Because that was hilarious. That was brilliant.
I can actually confirm it's true.
I could actually hear him. I could hear him read the line as well. Honestly, that was brilliant.
We could get Jack to do it and pretend to be James. Go on, Jack, quickly. Can you read what's on the screen?
What, from Stokes?
Yeah, Stokes. Stokes.
Change the voice.
Is it true Gimli has been going from home to home telling infirm octogenarians that he should rename his penis Little Mezza?
Thank you very much for that question, James. You're definitely not Jack, are you? You definitely are James.
No, there's many a prostitute in my rover.
Ah, excellent. And can you give us a curly whirly, please, James?
Curly whirly.
Oh, you sounded just like Jack.
Funny, isn't it?
But you're definitely not Jack. You can confirm that, Jack. I mean, James.
I can confirm.
That's fucking uncanny, I'll tell you. Curly whirly, my lover.
Never mind that. Answer the question.
Yes, no, it is true. It is 100% true.
Ah, jeez. Well, that's that
so
sorted out.
I'd like to thank Mr. James Raul Stokes.
We think.
Always a pleasure, boys. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for being a great sport, Jack.
Oh, there you are. You're welcome.
Cheers, Jack. Right,
You're welcome.
We shall speak to you again later.
Anytime.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.